Headlock, der Pro Wrestling Podcast.
So I could give you like a super gimmick answer, or I could give you like the real thing. The real thing is, I'm still trying to get it. I never stop working at trying to get better and better. That's all I can do is try to wake up better than I was when I went to sleep. That's pretty much my goal all the time. So as far as if you feel that I got it, I appreciate that. But I am still working for it. Or I could tell you, well, I got it the moment I stepped into a professional wrestling ring because I'm the man. Nah, but it's always fun to be able to interact with fans, and it seems that right now I feel really good about the building blocks that are going up, and hopefully I keep getting better and better, and that's what I'm working on every day. Like getting to stay at the apartment for WXW and roll around the academy and everything with guys like Thatcher and Riddle and Jeff Cobb and Walter, and Alani came by earlier this week too. It was super cool, and you get to pick up so many new things that maybe you wouldn't pick up anywhere else because they do a different type of training when I train with those guys, and I'm definitely, I got wrestling stuff like when I wrestled in college and university and all that goodness, but I'm not really a submission guy that much like when we really roll around. So learning from Matt and Tim and Cobb, all those guys, it's been a really good experience. Well, first things first, the first body slam I ever gave was to Headshrinker Samu, because he was showing us how anybody can give anybody a body slam. That's what he was saying, and he was so good. If you watch, he had a match, I think it was at Madison Square Garden with Mr. Perfect. It's like an 8-minute match, and it is awesome. And you can see how smooth Sam was and how athletic he was for such a big guy. Sam taught me a lot of stuff. He beat the hell out of me for a little bit, which I think was very important. He trains people the old school way, and I think that's also very important. It's a lost art these days. Well, so the Samoans were known for their savate kicks, right? A lot of times they would kill people. The Samoan SWAT team would kill people with those kicks. Oh my goodness. So there was a funny little story that he was telling one time. I guess he was wrestling somebody and he wanted to rib him. So as they were wrestling, he goes to shoot him off, and he calls, and what he calls to him, he goes, "Duck one, trust me." And then just murders him. So much for trusting him. There's another one where apparently he was, they did a USO tour or something in Alaska, and one of my other trainers, Tommy Swade, was rooming with one other WXW guy, WXW in America from the Samoans WXW, and Samu snuck into their hotel room, and then he put a glass of water next to the table, and then he grabbed a bunch of tissue paper and he stuffed it in the dude's arm, and he woke up Tommy and just told him to be quiet. And then Samu pulled out a lighter and lit the paper on fire, so Tommy freaked out and grabbed a cup of water and threw it on the dude, and Sam was out of the room by that time. Dude had no idea he was lit on fire, just thought Tommy woke him up by throwing water all over him. So there's a couple little things like that. He was quite the river, so he's a really good dude. It's funny because someone in the back asked me the same thing at the end of yesterday. Getting a bunch of nicknames is because I love Apollo Creed from the Rocky movies. The nicknames all each one has their own little story behind it. It's crazy over there. The Cream in Your Coffee is from Rich Palladino, who's the ring announcer at Beyond, and he's just the man. And he came up with a bunch of random ones at one point when I was like, hey, just give me a bunch of nicknames, and that was the one that stuck, and I loved it. Your favorite wrestler's favorite wrestler, that always gets a good reaction. Dan Barry gave that to me. Dan Barry of Team Tremendous. He said, hey, I used to use this when I was first starting. You should take it. I was like, okay, cool. The physical embodiment of charisma is just something I said in a promo a couple times, and I really liked it. So the most entertaining man in wrestling is, because that's true. The 104-minute man is, I had a 104-minute match with Dave Christ at Rockstar Pro in November, and then on purpose, Trevor Lee broke our record like a couple weeks later, and he literally told me that he was going to do it on purpose. So I was like, sure, go for it, man. You want to go for 105, make it happen. Good. I have to remember all my nicknames. Davey Wrestling came from a little feud I had at Beyond Wrestling with Johnny Gargano, and the first time I beat him, I started calling myself Davey Wrestling, and the second time we wrestled, I beat him again, and then he gave me Davey Wrestling. Mr. American Rana is like Beyond Wrestling's big show, so, you know, obviously. I'm trying to think of all my other nicknames. The King of Taunts is something I said in promos when I was tagging with JT Dunn. Just stuck. I actually didn't want to be the King of Taunts, because everybody is a king of something, it seems, and I wanted to be like a taunt master or taunt something, and nobody liked it at all, so they just kept forcing king on me. Oh, okay. So I just accepted it. The product came from a conversation very early on with one of my trainers when he was telling me, I mean, quite honestly, so he was telling me not to sleep with a bunch of girls that show up to wrestling shows, you know, and we all know the name for them. And I went on this whole thing like, that's not really how I do things, and I compared my sex to a product, and I kept saying it over and over again, and then we're like, hey, that's a pretty good nickname. Let's do that. So, and when I started at first, I was Diamond David Starr, because my family's all in the diamond and jewelry business, so I figured that was cool. And I love David Lee Roth, so that works too. Did I get all of my nicknames in there? The Jewish Cannon. Oh, there you go. Good call. That's a real nickname that I had from when I was really little, because my Pop Warner football team, so like youth football, was so good. Our three running backs, each of them played in college, and one of them ended up playing for the New York Giants. So we would just kind of like give them the ball and they would score. And I started on offense and on defense. And when you're up by a certain amount of points in youth football, you're not allowed to play your starters at their positions anymore. So the backups would play more than the starters would, because our guys those running backs were so good and just give them the ball, they'd score like every time they touched the ball. So then they would joke and say, put the Jewish Cannon in the quarterback, because I'm a terrible quarterback. I can't throw for anything. I have really bad hand-eye coordination as well, like, or at least I used to. Like, I'd throw a ball up to myself and like miss it. That's what used to happen to me. That's why wrestling worked. I think I got all my nicknames. Did I? Sweet. Checklist. Yeah, that's really all came from. And Apollo Creed's awesome.
Sorry for the question.
I have learned through my 5 years of being in wrestling now, I've learned on a couple of different occasions that, yeah, oh man, to keep to yourself for the most part, or maybe, see, this is gonna, no, that turns it into like kind of like a sad answer, which is just like keep your guard up all the time. That's something. As far as fangirls go who show up to shows, I've never, not that I can think of, actually been with like a fangirl who just showed up to a show that I met and then was like, oh, let's go back to our hotel later. No, that's actually never happened to me. I don't know. It's just not really my thing. But there are plenty of fangirls out there that like to talk on Twitter plenty of times, and or Facebook or Instagram or whatever, you know. And it is what it is, and that's just kind of really sad and unfortunate that their lives are dependent on retweets and likes off somebody else's name. So that's pretty unfortunate. But no. She's a really nice lady. She's a really nice lady. You're talking about Felicia. I like Felicia. She's cool. She's really cool. But no, like there's obviously you get put in situations, but you just gotta have a good head on your shoulders and not be an idiot. That's pretty much what I've learned to try not to do. I fail sometimes, but it's okay. Yeah, amateur wrestling was a huge part of my life, and at one point, I was told so many times that I wasn't going to be able to be a pro wrestler because I was too small or whatever, or it just wasn't realistic, or don't you have to be on steroids or something like that, even by amateur wrestling coaches. And when I decided to get into pro wrestling, my high school coach was he was my assistant coach, and then he became the head coach by the time I started wrestling professionally. He got so mad at me for doing it and ending. I cut my college career short by my last season. I actually missed my senior year of conferences, senior year of eligibility of conferences, because I had my first professional wrestling match. So I picked to do pro wrestling over collegiate wrestling at one point. He got so mad that he barred me from my high school practice room for a long time. Actually forever, until recently, where my buddy got the head coaching job and he lets me go in there and wrestle around a bit. I really don't follow it that much if it's like religiously like I used to. When I wrestled in college and when I wrestled in high school and stuff, I used to follow everything, every little statistic. You could tell you who beat who wrestled who where, and all this stuff like that. I was just kind of a nerd like that. But I went to nationals my sophomore year, and I was in the All-America round, and I lost on a riding point, so I lost 9-8. And I would have, if I'd won that match, been an All-American, and that was something that was a huge goal of mine. And having wrestled for like 14 years at that point, it just super burned me out. And I was cutting 31 pounds to make weight. I was cutting from 188 down to 157 pounds to make weight. I looked emaciated. It was ridiculous. But it just burned me out. So when I was done, like when I started wrestling professionally, I told my coach about it, and he was like, okay, well, you're not allowed, you're ineligible at this point for the NCAA, so there's nothing we can do. I was like, I'm so happy I don't have to step on a scale again, realistically. And I haven't competed since. I've been asked to do like all-star meets or like little open tournaments, and I don't know. Wrestling around with like Tim and Matt and all that, and Jeff kind of got me like a little bit of an itch again. But I don't know, man. I don't want to cut weight, because I'd be a really small. I'd probably have to do like if I did college weights, it'd be like 184 pounds. I'd probably have to cut to that, or maybe even 174 if I wanted to be like a serious competitor. I don't really have the desire to do that, but maybe I'll wrestle again, like in an open tournament somewhere. The thing that was always cool about open tournaments that my stepdad used to tell me was like, hey, anybody can walk into an open tournament. Kurt Angle might walk in here and wrestle. I was like, that's not gonna happen. Well, first, I just realized I totally forgot to answer the question about who's like an amateur wrestler that can make it. Oh man, I can't think of his name, and it's terrible. If you tweet at Rory Gulak, there's a dude that he's like training with right now who is like ranked #1 in the country, or #1 in the state of Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania is the best wrestling state in the country, period. And I forget his name, but he's come to a few CZW shows, and he's got a great look about him. He is obviously super legit when it comes to wrestling, and so I would look out for him. If you, again, tweet at Rory or figure something out, he'll tell you his name. He deserves recognition, and he's like a really good amateur wrestler. As far as why did I pick pro wrestling over like MMA, I never had like a submission background. Like I did 6 months of jiu-jitsu when I was 16 years old, but it actually hurt my amateur wrestling because you had to get comfortable being on your back, and I'm not very comfortable being on my back in like a shoot situation. So I was always a pro wrestling fan. I liked watching MMA and stuff, but like the reason I kind of watched MMA was, one, the Forrest Griffin and Stephan Bonner fight was awesome, and I watched that, and that was super cool. And then when Brock Lesnar was there, I started paying more attention because I watched Brock Lesnar in pro wrestling. So I wasn't ever interested in actually doing like mixed martial arts or punching and kicking people in the face, or getting punched and kicked in the face. That's not very nice. So that was I was definitely the pro wrestling guy, which is something I always wanted to do since I was 5 years old, and I saw Shawn Michaels come down on the little zip line. Yeah, that's pretty much always what I wanted to do. And for the tattoo, I appreciate the compliment because most people think it's awful. Someone said it was the worst wrestling tattoo they've ever seen, like for a pro wrestler, and I said, whoa, nothing's worse than Brock Lesnar's sword tattoo, so come on. And, you know, don't tell Brock I said that.
Headlock, der Pro Wrestling Podcast.